Hello. I come to you with a warning. Do not try to replicate the ritual that this story covers. It will only bring you death and despair. This is not a demon you should ever even think about, let alone bring into this world. Indeed, one might even call this worse than a demon, for even hell has a concept of God, of morality, of sanity. At least the faintest memory of such things can be allowed to exist. Yet, in the nameless plane of being from which this forsaken beast spread into ours like an infection, not even such concepts could be imagined in the wildest dreams. The Roggen has no empathy, no mercy, no love or human warmth. All that lurks under that stony spherical body is a glint of cold cruelty, as cold and hard as steel. No soul resides behind that dead, singular eye, no motive besides a lifeless process as uncaring as the death of a star or a mudslide burying a village drives the movement of its clammy hands. No life or will drives that empty object. It is not a malicious demon sent to torture the innocent, nor a wild beast simply following instinct and fear to its vicious conclusion. No, it is more akin to a lifeless boulder, possessed with no meaning, motive, or intentions, as it hurtles down a cliff to crush the skull of someone walking below. It is an asteroid on a doomed journey across the stars toward mutual destruction with earthly life. There is no reasoning with such a force, not a being, a force, no empathizing. It simply destroys what it comes across, that is all it can do. Like an axe swung with a grave miscalculation, all that can stop it is the shattering of a misfortuned skull. And yet, are we any different from such an entity? Are we driven only by the desire for the warmth of pleasure and fear of the cold of pain? Is what we call ourselves simply the meeting point of a soul in an ever-hungry body? Is the body so different from the Roggen? Simply just dragged along by desire and its ugly second head, suffering? Such questions fill my alcohol-emptied mind and stalk my oh-so-shallow sleep. I seek refuge in the thought that someday soon, I may be rid of this flawed physical body and my soul can rejoin the formless void to fill a shape anew. Yet, I know why you are here. You want to hear about the scary monster and how it has ruined lives. You want to be entertained by the reasons why a man could have his life scooped out from his innards while he lives. You don't want to hear the ramblings of a hollow shell of a human being. You could care less. You just want to stir up the past of another so you can ignore your present. So, where it started. I was always a sort of loser. A jack of no trades. I spent my days indoors, playing Roggencaist and reading the same shitty candlelight comics from my childhood over and over. I ate nothing but Roggen-O's delicious canned spaghetti and occasionally McDonald's, the only food I could afford on my unemployment checks, and rapidly dwindling college money from when I worked at the local library, being fired after someone stealing candlelight comics was blamed on me. Now, I simply just crawled through my days. My pastimes brought me no joy, it was simply the only way to live without actively making me feel actively uncomfortable or suffering. I was chronically sleep deprived, the trains passing by my bottom-of-the-barrel apartment keeping me awake to be eaten alive by the guilt of living the way I did. I needed a way out. I tried applying to Roggen-O's Italian, but I was instantly laughed out of the restaurant when they found out I actually ate their food. Next, I tried applying to Roggen's Funtime Pizzeria, but they couldn't afford to pay new workers as they needed a specific amount for their money laundering scheme. But before they kicked me out of the restaurant, I was able to steal some copper wire sticking out of the animatronics. I sold the wire and had enough money to pay for my internet bill for a month, allowing me to, at least, have some new entertainment for once. I was scrolling through Roggenbook, the dogshit Facebook clone made by Candlelight Company, after they bought the internet, when I saw a comment from a user called Roggen Creepypastas fan. It was detailing a strange ritual called the Roggen game, something I didn't recognize the name of. This is what the post was, as well as I can remember it. Hello. I have found this game on 4Roggen-chan. It can give you infinite money, but also kill you by clogging your arteries instantly. These are the steps. 1. Make a Roggen shape on your floor using Roggen-O's special spaghetti sauce. 2. Place a dead goblin in the center, where the eye is. 3. Place 5 red candles on the dead goblin. 4. Say Roggen over and over until you run out of breath. 5. Burn a candlelight comic over the candles. 6. Eat a bloody killer Roggen plush. The Roggen will now be summoned. Instantly spin in a circle 10 times counterclockwise and put a pinch of salt into one of your eyes. Next, put on a propeller beanie immediately and say hello I am Roggen to the Roggen. Sorry guys, I accidentally turned on caps lock. How do I turn it off? I thought that the post was incredibly stupid but decided to do it anyways. First, I smeared some spaghetti sauce I had stolen from Roggen's Italian onto the floor in the shape of a Roggen. After that, I grabbed a goblin corpse I bought from Roggen Mart for $3, throwing the disgusting thing onto the floor, kicking it into the right position. It smelled horrible now, but I couldn't stop this far in. I lit 5 red candles, placing them on the dead goblin. I said Roggen once, as I instantly ran out of breath due to my lack of any exercise for multiple years. I grabbed one of my old Candlelight comics. I might have felt nostalgic for it if I hadn't read it, so much I realized how awful it was. Knowing this, I burned it without a second thought. After that, I pulled out a bloody killer Roggen plush I had from childhood. It was my favorite character. But leaving it in my sink for a few years meant it was covered in mold, but I ate it anyways, still better than Roggen's canned spaghetti. Suddenly, the goblin corpse sank into the floor, the candles all going out and dissolving into red wax simultaneously. The outline of the Roggen, drawn in spaghetti sauce, began to fill in and then sink into my floor, creating a Roggen-shaped hole in the ground with no visible bottom. I heard a voice say,
"I smell Roggen's delicious canned spaghetti. I smell a dead goblin."
Deep from the pit. In shock and horror, I fell and stumbled backward, right before a freezing cold wind exploded from the pit, cold enough to freeze moisture in the air into a layer of frost coating everything near the pit. I watched with horror as my propeller beanie was blown out my window onto the train tracks near my house as a train passed, destroying the beanie. My salt was scattered across the room. I was helpless to stop the Roggen now. In pure fear, I ran out of my apartment and into the hall, slamming the door behind me, stumbling back when I felt something collide with my door so hard that it made an indentation in the door like in old cartoons. I saw in horror that it was a Roggen wearing a propeller beanie and carrying a can of what must have been Roggen's delicious canned spaghetti in one hand and a slice of pizza in the other. I began to run, stumbling a little along the way, my shaky legs often carrying me into walls. I soon heard my door break down and felt a cold wind and smelled putrid tomato sauce. I had to stop as I was winded due to the exercise which I had not done in years. I looked behind me and saw the Roggen close behind. I forced myself to move, stumbling through an emergency exit into the chilly night air. As far as I knew, the Roggen had not followed me out of the building. I took a taxi as far away as my little cash could bring me. I write this from inside a cardboard box on the side of a road on my dying old phone. I know the Roggen is close by. I can smell the tomato sauce. I don't know what will kill me first, the cold or the Roggen. Take this message as my final wish, never play the Roggen game.